Hello, everyone. Hi, Sage. Welcome. Thank you so much for being our member highlight for February 2024.
Happy to be here. Thanks, Claire.
Yeah, thank you. And some of you watching this video may recognize Sage because she actually was our very first member highlight when we started the newsletter in June of 2023. But that member highlight video was different. It was basically at Rogue, like right after a class. It was a couple minutes long, a quick kind of check in with you, sharing your experience of exercise and how it had benefited you. But we didn't really get to know much more about you. And after that first video, we realized, oh, if we get on Zoom with people, we can have a little bit more of a conversation, learn more about you and your experiences. And we've kind of adjusted the format. So we're excited to have you back on so that we can learn more about you.
Great.
So, first question is if you want to give people a little bit of background about you and your experience with Parkinson's, like when were you diagnosed, things like that.
Well, I was diagnosed about 7 years ago, and it was a real surprise. My partner is a health educator and, had a practice and was very sensitive to changes in me. And so when she noticed that my arm wasn't swinging and that my movement seemed slower than usual, she said, I think something's up. And so we went to investigate it. And I kept thinking that everybody was going to say, that's a mistake, that's an exaggeration, I'm fine. But everybody kept coming up with Parkinson's, which I knew nothing about. So we learned about it. And then I met you 2 years later. And I was lucky that not only meeting you, but my first movement disorder specialist emphasized the importance of exercise. So I had started to take some water aerobics and some dance classes, and I was walking, but I was still noticing then, after the diagnosis, some changes that I hadn't experienced before. Like I was very tired, and I wasn't on medication, and I was um, didn't want to be on medication because I was uneducated about what that meant. So I actually didn't drive either because we were living in Los Angeles at the time and it's much more crowded and I was exhausted. And so taking a lift was easier. And so I wasn't driving, which was a big shock. I was tired and I couldn't swim or bicycle in the same ways that I was. My balance was off. And so I thought this is going to be the progression. And then when I started exercising at Rogue and taking medicine, I did some medicine before. Then we moved to Orange County, where it's not as dense, so the traffic was a lot easier. I started driving again, and with the exercise, I can now swim and coordinate a stroke and do the 4 strokes that I know how to do well since I've been a kid. So that was the beginning of the change.
That's so awesome. When did you start taking medication?
I think about a year after my diagnosis.
Okay. So didn't wait too long and got started. And did you find that the medication helped when you started it?
Big game changer. I just felt like I can come back into my life. And I had asked my movement disorder specialist at the time, what would you do if you wanted to continue to be, working and do that? He goes, I would take it. And it was a good match for me. I
Mhm.
responded really well. And
Mhm.
so I was teaching full time as a college professor and I was active and I couldn't have done that without these changes.
And so then we met 2 years after your diagnosis.
Right.
Who knows if we hadn't met at that meeting, how we would have maybe found each other. But I was speaking at a support group down in South Orange County because you live down in South Orange County. We're kind of more up in North Orange County. And so we met there. And then I think it took a couple months maybe, but then I heard from you and you came up to try classes. And then we've been seeing each other every week pretty much since then for the
Right.
past like five
Right.
years.
Right. And if somebody in the audience hadn't said that they come from South Orange County to where Fountain Valley, where Rogue is, I wouldn't have thought it was possible because I didn't know very much about the traveling of Orange County, but it's been great. I mean, it takes me about 20 minutes to 30 minutes, and I enjoy the drive.
All right. So we met. And so you said someone mentioned that they came up from South Orange County. And otherwise, what made you want to come to Rogue and try classes?
You, when we went on the support group, when we attended, you were just so positive and energized, and I just resonated so much with what you said, and I thought that I could do what you said was possible, and I wanted to at least give it a try.
Mm-hmm. And so what would you say then with the past few years of exercise, what had your experience been with exercise?
You know, it's been so pronounced in terms of a difference. I am animated. My mood is better. My movement is better. My relationship is better. I mean, significantly. And you know, I wouldn't have had that framework to know that exercise could be so transformative. And
Mhm.
I heard you once during the pandemic, you were doing a class on cardio, and you were reading us studies at the time so that we could, you know, learn while we were exercising. And there was somebody who did an intensive for a week, and there were great results from it. So when I was having trouble with my own discipline and busyness, then I said, just try and get myself recalibrated. Why don't I do an intensive in January? That was last year.
Mm-hmm. Okay,
And I
so
saw
that's what motivated you to try the intensive was the research.
the
Hearing about the
research.
research where they've done intensive kind of bouts of therapy and exercise.
Yes, I didn't even
Cool.
think that was possible. And then instead of going to Arizona for a week, I thought, why don't I try and create some of that here at Rogue, which was a very good idea.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so that was so a year ago you did your first month-long intensive. And prior to that, we had, I think we got started working out together in 2019. You were maybe coming up 2 or 3 times a week then for classes because you're still working. Then we had 2020 that was mostly online, not very much together. So then we started to come back 2021 and 2022. And so then you decided in January 2023 to do the intensive. And so, yeah, what was your experience? So you committed to exercising 2 hours a day, 5 days a week for a month. So it was over 4 weeks, really. January is kind
Right.
of a long month. So it was more than 4 weeks. So what was your experience last year doing that for the first time?
I mean, I really changed a lot. People noticed it who didn't even know I was doing an intensive. They could see some more vibrancy in my my countenance. I was active. I was more animated. I was moving my hands. I wasn't going into that still, small um, orientation that Parkinson's leads us to. And I didn't know that my level of mood was must have been more dark than I had imagined because I felt such a difference. Like the
Mm-hmm.
exercise broke through any kind of depressive anxiety and fear that was beginning to creep up. And the classes were there. I just didn't always take advantage of it. So
Mm-hmm.
I was just trying to create a different kind of format so that I could overcome, you know, my own challenges with doing what I know is good for me.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And that's what I think committing to it for a certain period of time, like it could have been even 1 week, could have been what you committed to if that's what felt like it was reasonable. And I think like you did feel a difference even in 1 week. And I think
Yes,
part of it in the first week is just the experience of doing it, of doing so much more exercise than you've ever done before and realizing not only did I do it, but I actually do feel better.
a
Um,
lot better. And then
yeah.
as soon as I stopped doing it as regularly, I slipped back into some of my previous symptoms. And it felt like it was speedier to go backwards than it was to go forwards.
Hmm.
I lost more quickly.
And I think sometimes it's also because your awareness is heightened so much to what like the difference is and how good you could feel or how not good you could feel. Where before doing the intensive, you'd kind of just been about the same over time. There were some ups and downs, but when you do an intensive and feel so much better, you kind of start to get like that runner's high and, like a little bit of the mood boost and everything from exercise. Then I can imagine that when that drops back down, you feel a bigger difference coming down. I can see how that
Yeah,
would happen. And so,
right,
yeah, last year, you were busy, you kept up with exercise. But this year you decided again to do an intensive in January.
right. Because we also healed during that time some fasciitis that was very much of a roadblock for me. So the
Mm-hmm.
exercise actually helped that as well as the one-on-ones with PT at Rogue. And now I decided to do it again because I felt like I had slipped back from the regularity of exercising. I went 3 times a week, and then I would do one class and my own cardio. And so what I learned about myself is I'm not the best regulator.
Mm-hmm.
So having a commitment to do it 5 days a week, 2 hours a day, has kept me on track, and I reap the benefits. And now
Mm-hmm.
I'm just curious, what if I did it 2 months in a row?
Mm-hmm.
So I'm going to take on that challenge in February.
Yeah, it's happening.
Yes,
All right, exciting.
yes.
I'm
What
very
can
excited to
happen?
see what happens because yeah, to me like a month is that it feels kind of like a long time, but it's also a very short amount of time in the grand scheme of things. So that is very exciting. I'm excited to see how things continue to progress and yeah, very, very cool. Let's see other things. I think that's one thing to highlight. Oh, that's what I was mentioning is, if someone's thinking about doing an intensive, you can choose the number of days or the length of time that feels like reasonable to commit to. It could be a week, it could be 10 days, it can be a month. There's so much psychology in terms of kind of our commitment to exercise. And so I think everybody has to find kind of that right time frame for them. I think often people, yeah, even for a week will feel different and better. And then that'll motivate you to want to keep going. Um, so yeah, I encourage anyone who hasn't tried doing more of an exercise intensive to try it because exercise is very dose responsive. So how much you do makes a difference in how much you benefit from it. And so I do think there are so many people who are still underdosed with exercise to actually achieve the benefit. So if you're exercising but not really feeling a benefit, I would say really look at your schedule. How often are you truly, truly exercising? And for what duration, as opposed to what you want to do or plan to do. And then see, is that something that could be increased because that likely would be beneficial? 3 hours a week is really the minimum that research has shown to be beneficial. And then each additional day is beneficial. I have not had anyone do 2 hours a day is kind of the most that people do here. I don't think we've ever had like at the power retreat, it is 3 hours of exercise a day, but only for 1 week. So that's kind of a little bit different. But I think somewhere between 1 and 2 hours per day is ideal for many people. Um, so yeah, very exciting. And what motivates you now to want to exercise more and to do something like an intense?
Well, I noticed that my symptoms got worse when I didn't do as much exercise. So practically getting up from a chair and having somebody say, "Can I help you?" or doing it in a couple of tries is not the kind of lifestyle that I would prefer. I think practically it's made my life much more independent, and I want to keep that.
Mm-hmm. So that's the motivation is staying strong, healthy, independent with daily activities, and then the mood boost too that you've mentioned, I bet as well.
Yeah, for sure. And,
Um,
and, and being more myself, like as I know myself to be at my best.
mm-hmm. What is there? Are there any specific things you've kind of mentioned some, but any other things that you would say that you can do now that is different than like in that first year to two after you were diagnosed?
Driving, I have a new car. So I have an electric car now. Swimming, bicycling, being able to walk at a distance, keeping up with other people who are active, playing golf, um, just physically better. And sleep is better, less medication, more times in between, less dyskinesia. So
So
I think that's a pretty good pill.
it's pretty much all the things. Yeah. Yeah. Exercise is pretty amazing.
It is.
So
It's amazing. Amazing.
yeah, and for us, Sage, I will tell you that it's very cool to see someone take on exercise like you are and get to see them benefit from it. And it is what motivates us as therapists and, trainers and people who work with people who have Parkinson's to push people and say, try more, do this, because I have seen it work with other people. And so there's a good chance to try, and then it keeps happening. So, our opportunity to get to work with people who take on that challenge and are willing to commit to more exercise and, to commit to more, then they see the benefit, we see the benefit. And that's how, I think the evidence and experiences grow stronger and stronger. I think a lot of physical therapists work in settings where they get to see someone like once or twice a week, maybe 3 times a week, and that's all the exercise they're doing. And they don't see a lot of change in those people because they're underdosed for exercise. But then as a physical therapist, you think this is all that's possible for people with Parkinson's. And so that's what, we get to be in a different environment and try different things and try to implement the research and see, wow, yeah, this is actually how much it can work if it actually is done in the right way. So it's very inspiring for all of us therapists as well to, just have the motivation to keep encouraging other people to try these things.
Yeah, it's really, Rogue is a special place. I really appreciate all of the PT um, facilitators. It's a wonderful place. I mean, I've had PT before, and it's nothing like this.
Yeah, a
To
different kind of
actually
place.
do the exercise and to kind of be brought through the progression of getting stronger and challenging limits has just been wonderful.
Mm-hmm. Oh, I love to hear it. So if do you have any words of wisdom or encouragement for other people with Parkinson's?
I once heard in my first support group that don't let Parkinson's define you, somebody said to me in that meeting. And I think that was really very helpful. And since I didn't know about Parkinson's, I just had some stereotypes that I held on to. So my second point would be to educate yourself about Parkinson's, because it's not what it seems. In fact, Parkinson's has been something that's been a benefit to my life, which sounds odd to say, but it's led me to be more physically fit, change my diet. It's moved to Orange County. It's Sandy once said to me, my partner, that, thank God for Parkinson's. So, and then also to see that other people are living really good lives with Parkinson's. And so be one of those paradigm changers. It's possible. And thinking it's possible leads you down that path.
Mm-hmm.
Exercise, I would say.
Yes, I
And
love it. And I think too, like just any significant health thing that maybe it's kind of like a wake up call in your life of how am I living my life? How do I want to live my life? What do I want my life to be like? And it's just that wake up call is what gives you the opportunity to make these choices. And Parkinson's is a diagnosis that you can have such a huge influence on by making lifestyle changes. So,
I would
I
just add
think,
community,
mhm, mhm.
having contact with people, especially people who are on the same path, has been very supportive for me.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So yeah, for anyone watching this video, seek out the resources in your community, find good people because it can be super inspiring and just make a huge difference in your life. All
So let's
right.
see what happens next.
Awesome, Sage. I can't wait. Yeah, we will definitely do a check-in. Even if you're not the official member highlight, we may do another video in a month after month two, so you can give us an update.
Okay. Thank
All
you
right.
so much.
Thank you so much for joining today. We'll see you all next time. Let us know if you have any questions.